Hello and welcome to my channel Happy Hours. In the last video, I discussed about the good governance, features of the good governance and its criticism. India's specific analysis about the good governance, endogenic and exogenic, and we understood that some features were endogenic and some are exogenic. In this video, I am going to discuss about the independent judiciary and accountability, some features of democracy, provisions of accountability in constitution, difference between the accountability and responsibility, types of accountability and social accountability. So what are we waiting for? Let's jump for the first topic, which is independent judiciary. It is a part of endogenic good governance. Now, independent judiciary. Rule of law is an important feature of good governance and it can be achieved through independent judiciary. The judiciary is not influenced by the executive. It is also one of the visions of constitution, which is article number 50, which talks about the separation of powers, means judiciary from executive. India, because of the judiciary, there are some specific outcome, that is activist judiciary. Now let us discuss about the activist judiciary. It means there are a lot of innovative interpretations of constitution that the judiciary has taken up. Judiciary in India has innovatively interpreted the constitution, like Kesav Nanda Bharti case, the basic structure of doctrine, article number 21 of the constitution. It has been expanded to include more than 27 rights. Procedure established by the law has been read as due process of law. Court wanted to maintain a balance between the right of the parliament to do amendment in the constitution, but it should not be misused. Accordingly, they wanted to conclude that the parliament is having the right to amend the constitution, which includes the fundamental rights, but there are some limitations, and in the limitations they come up with the basic structure of doctrine. This is a very innovative idea. This is one of the consequences of independent judiciary. The judiciary has taken up a lot of innovative measures in the jurisprudence of India, or they have integrated those innovative measures in the jurisprudence of India, which is not mentioned anywhere else. Next one is PIL. The tool of PIL, which public interest litigation, is to ensure justice to the weaker section of the society. Extended the power of judiciary to look into public matters or judicial supervision of matters of public interest. Expansion of fundamental right of the citizen. Environment is not being mentioned in the constitution as a part of the fundamental right. Through judicial interventions, it has also been made a part of fundamental right. Next is the corruption-free administration. Whenever we are talking about the good governance, we cannot dilute the judiciary. Sometimes the executives or the legislative have failed to administer properly, and then the judiciary fill this gap through judicial interventions like active judiciary or PIL, or through suo motu interventions by itself without a petition. Transparency should be legislated. Citizens have the right to get information. It has the interventions by judicials. In the Rajnarayan case, judiciary is playing very important role in the good governance. Next is the accountability. It is one of the features of the good governance. As well, it means answerability. If I have taken up an action, in that case, why I have taken that action, what was the reason behind taking that and the reason for all these, I have an answer. I have to give answer and I am being answerable to the citizens. And accountability is inherent to democracy. The representatives are accountable to the citizens. But can democracy exist without representatives? Yes, there is direct democracy also. Democracy can be either direct democracy or can be representative democracy. It means democracy can exist even without the representatives. If the people decide what are the specific actions required, then why there is a need for representatives. In country like India, the existence of representative becomes mandatory because of the population, because the population is unmanageable. That's why in India, representative democracy is in operation. Now let us discuss about the features of democracy. First is free and fair elections. Secondly, equality of political rights. Thirdly, decision makers should be elected by the people. And fourthly, the decision maker should be accountable to the people. There are many countries where elections are being conducted, but we cannot assume that there is an existence of democracy. Example is Pakistan. Their elections are being conducted, but elections must be conducted free and fair. Means every political party and candidate should have equal opportunity to win the election. So until unless the elections are free and fair, there is no democracy. Now the next one is equality of political rights. Every citizen should have similar right to vote, contest elections, and also equality of value of votes. If we compare each and every citizens, there should not be any political dissimilarity. To understand that concept of equality of value of vote, let's discuss the case of Fiji. In Fiji, there are two types of citizens. First one is as the indigenous citizen, and these are and there are other citizens of Fiji. The indigenous citizens are having a historical relation with the country, and so they are having more value of their votes. In India, there is no such type of citizenship. So the value of vote is equal for each one. Now the next one is decision makers should be elected by the people. Let us take a reference of a country like Pakistan. There the armed force officials are having more power than the legislatures in case of decision making. As we all know that the legislatures are being elected by the people, not the armed force officials, so we can say that the elected members are not the decision makers in such cases. Now the last one is the decision maker should be accountable to the people. Whenever the decision maker is taking any decision, for that decision they should be answerable. Until and unless all the conditions are met, we cannot say that there is a democracy in existence. It means that the concept of accountability is inherent in to democracy. Until and unless there is accountability, there is no democracy. Before the World War I, US was not having the democracy cause the women were not having the right to vote. Even the Afro Americans were not having the right to vote. Now there is a question, and that is indirect democracy, how accountability phenomena works. When citizens are decision makers, why do we need the accountability? Because accountability is inherent. It is my own decision. Accountability comes when decisions are taken by someone else. So people are accountable for themselves. In India, the direct democracy is practiced in Gram Sabha. In Gram Sabha, they work on the direct democracy, act as the legislature of the village. People will meet and they are taking their decisions. The decisions taken by Gram Sabha is being implemented by the Gram Panchayat. So it is the executive body. This is how it is conceived in the constitution. If the Gram Sabha is taking decision, whatever will be the consequences, it is going to be responsibility of the Gram Sabha only. Gram Panchayat is accountable only for the implementations. We can understand with an example, like whenever there is a fund of 1 crore, suppose. Now it is the Gram Sabha who is going to decide how they are going to spend the money. They are going to decide what are their requirements. Like, is there a road to be constructed? Well, or sports ground or etc. are going to be constructed, or the requirement of the village, and they are going to make decision accordingly. Now they are going to make the decisions, and the Gram Panchayat is going to execute the decision. So for the decision, the Gram Sabha is going to be responsible, whereas for the implementation, the Gram Panchayat is going to be accountable. Now let us understand the constitutional provision, or we can say provisions of accountability in Constitution. The implicit reference to the accountability. First is the legislative procedure. Second is the separation of powers. Third, judiciary. Fourth, autonomous constitutional bodies like CAG. Fourth, rule of law. Next, the division of power. And the last one is constitutionalism. The doctrine of limited government means the government does not have absolute and unlimited power, and the government, whichever executives are there, they have to exercise their power within certain limits. Constitutionalism is a doctrine that the government authority is determined by a body of law or constitution. It is synonymous to limited government. It is very similar to the idea of rule of law, because rule of law ensures constitutionalism. Now, what is the difference between the separation of power and division of power? Separation of power is between the three organs of state, that is judiciary, legislative and the executive, whereas the division of power is between the center and the state. Now let us understand the difference between the accountability and responsibility. Now accountability is defined, whereas the responsibility is not defined, or we can say the accountability is officially defined and the responsibility is personally defined. In other words, we can say the accountability is objective. Every organization uses some specific tools. These tools are basically how the accountability is defined. Like example, we can say constitution, code of conduct and service rule. These are objective and they are written. Now what is code of conduct? Means there will be some conduct rules. Example, what a civil servant is supposed to do or not to do. It is an enforceable tool. If we do not follow code of conduct, we may be prosecuted for it. Next is how in responsibility is when it is personally defined, means it is abstract. Unlike accountability, it is subjective and it is personal, can vary from individual to individual. Similar positions have similar accountability, but that is not the case with the responsibility. It differs from individual to individual. Second difference is accountability is formal and responsibility is informal. We are having a formal document like constitution, code of conduct and service rules, and responsibility is given on the basis of performance. Next difference is accountability is more administrative and responsibility is more political. Administrators are guided by the accountability, whereas the politicians are guided by the responsibility. It is desired that the politicians must be more and more responsible, but that is not the case of administrators. Accountability is a fact-based, responsibility is value-based. There are certain pre-written rules that is to be followed. Values differ from individual to individual. Now we have differentiated between the accountability and responsibility, but it does not mean they are not interrelated. There is a relation in between the accountability and responsibility, and that is one leads to each other. If someone is accountable for something, then he has to be responsible to become accountable also. An individual who are responsible, they are accountable also. Politicians are not only responsible, but they are accountable. If they are violating the law, then they will be held accountable. So we can say that accountability is defined responsibility. Now let us discuss about the different types of accountability. Under the first division, or we can say under the first classification, there are two divisions. First is accountability from above and the next is accountability from below. Now let us discuss first the accountability from above. Here we are going to have the organization in a pyramidal structure. Every individual is accountable to the superior, or we can say that every superior will enforce accountability of the inferior or the subordinate. like state hierarchy, where on the top we are having the chief secretary, that is the head of state. Next we are having the division, where the head is a divisional commissioner. Under it is a district, where the head is the district collector. And the last one is a block or the subdivision, where the head is the block development officer, which is also known as PDO. Now we are going to understand the accountability from below. It is the engagement of people ensures the accountability of bureaucracy, like from forcing accountability of administration. It is also known as the social accountability also. Accountability from above is operationalizing accountability by means of superior subordinate relationship. In this form of accountability, the superior hold their respective subordinates accountable for the discharging of their duty. Accountability from below is where accountability travels upwards, that is, people or authorities down the hierarchy on those who are above accountable for their actions. Now we are going to understand the social accountability, which is a form of the accountability from below. Means we can say it is an example of accountability from below. It is defined as an approach towards ensuring accountability that depends upon civic engagement or participation of people. The effectiveness of the social accountability dependent on two features. First, the state willing to allow participation of citizens, and second, the state adopting different mechanisms in order to facilitate participation. For example, RTI. The state has adopted right given to citizens to ask questions, and the questions will be answered. There are different measures, principles of social accountability. First is information, means everyone is going to be provided with the information if they are going to ask. Secondly, involvement and the participation, means each and every person is going to take the participation. Second, time bound action. Next is the protection of citizen, like the protection of RTI activists. Whenever there are certain conditions in India, whenever there is RTI activist, they are having in danger, means they are having danger of life. So it is the part of the political system to save them or to protect them. Next is citizens' right to be heard. Institutions like Lokpal, which is an anti-corruption body, if any administrator is doing some malpractices, then the people can go to Lokpal, and there the people are going to be heard. Every citizen is going to be heard, and it is their light. Now, next one is the public platform, like Janta Ka Manch, where the public hearing or social audit, where the people are going to be heard. And the next one is and the last one is the report, means it is going to create awareness. People on the public platform critically discuss the work done by the administrator. Report is an order to create awareness. Now, what is the impact of social accountability on governance? It is going to make the administration more responsible. It is ensuring that there is constant surveillance maintained over the administration. This constant surveillance contributes to the effectiveness of the organization. Citizens should be more vigilant towards the activity of the administration, and social accountability brings empowerment of the citizen, because information is empowerment. By this, I'm going to conclude my video. Thank you.